Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Charlie. On today's episode, I'm going to be showing y'all how to make my delicious homemade bourbon chicken. This recipe calls for about 1 to 2 servings. It's the perfect appetizer, and it's absolutely delicious. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, here's all what you're going to need to make your bourbon chicken. Let's get started. You're going to need 2 pounds of chicken wingette and chicken drumette sections. You will also need some bourbon whiskey, soy sauce, honey, light brown sugar, cornstarch, some fresh ginger, garlic, and for our seasonings, you're going to need some salt, black pepper, Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. Now, if you don't have this, you can use the Zatarain's Creole seasoning or the Snappy Mama Cajun seasoning. You will also need some granulated onion, granulated garlic, crushed red pepper, and some vegetable or canola oil. And for your tools, you'll need a 4-quart pot or saucepan. Now, if you're using that, you'll need a thermometer. You can also use a deep fryer as well. You will also need a cooling rack with a 11 by 17 inch baking pan. And you're also going to need a garlic press. And there you have it. All right, let's get straight to it. So I have 1 teaspoon of the ginger, and here I have a garlic press. And I'm gonna just take the garlic press and I'm just gonna press the ginger. And there we go. All right, here I have 1 clove of garlic. I went ahead and cut it in half. Here I have a garlic press. I'm gonna just press the garlic. And there we go. Now I'm going to add my chicken wing pieces into the strainer. Rinse the chicken pieces off with cold water. Now I like to do this step to rinse off any blood or particles that might be on the chicken. And you don't have to follow this step if you don't want to. Preheat your fire to medium heat. Okay, let's begin our bourbon sauce. So in a small pot, I'm going to add 2/3 cup of water, 3/4 cup of our bourbon whiskey, 5 teaspoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of honey, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1/4 heaping teaspoon of red pepper flakes, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of pressed ginger, and a 1 clove of pressed garlic. Now I'm going to take my whisk and I'm just going to stir all the ingredients together. And I'm going to let this simmer for about 7 minutes. Alright, now while that's going, here I have a measuring cup. I have 1 tablespoon of cold water. And to that I'm going to add 1 1/2 teaspoons of cornstarch. And I'm going to just stir that until combined. And I'm going to just add this once the 7 minutes is up. Alright, it's been about 7 minutes now. I'm going to go ahead and pour my cornstarch mixture right on in there. I'm going to just take my whisk and I'm just going to stir this until combined. And I'm going to let this simmer for about 3 minutes. Alright, it's been about 10 minutes total cooking time. And our bourbon sauce is done. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Now for some quick tips, your mixture will thicken as it cools. And for best results, you can make this 2 to 3 days in advance so that way the flavors can settle and increase. Alright, let's get started with marinating our chicken. So in this medium-sized bowl, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, a half or 1 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Remember the sauce that we made? About 1 to 2 tablespoons of that. Right on in there. That's our bourbon sauce. And 1 to 2 tablespoons of our bourbon whiskey. Now I'm going to just take my hands and I'm just going to coat all of the seasonings and the bourbon onto the chicken. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover this. And I'm going to place this into my refrigerator overnight. Preheat your fire to medium heat. And if you have a deep fryer, you're going to preheat it to 350 degrees. Okay, let's get started with frying our chicken. So I've added 48 fluid ounces of canola oil into this large saucepan. Now, if you are using a deep fryer, you want to add the amount of oil according to the instructions on how much oil to add in your deep fryer. Now you're going to let the oil get hot until it reaches a temperature of 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now before you fry your chicken, make sure you have your cooling rack with a pan underneath it ready. Alright, here's our chicken after we marinated it overnight. Now we're going to let this sit out for about 30 minutes before we fry it. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of my chicken pieces. and add the chicken pieces into the hot oil. Now frying times vary depending on the size of the chicken, your pot, your saucepan, your deep fryer, and your stove. Now you're going to let this fry for about 8 to 12 minutes. For smaller wings like how I have, about 8 to 10 minutes. If you have larger wings, it's going to take about 10 to 12 minutes. Alright, it's been about 8 to 12 minutes now, and as you can see, our chicken is starting to float at the surface of the oil. That lets us know that it's done. So now I'm going to go ahead and take a mesh straining spoon, and I'm just going to remove the chicken out of the hot oil. Let me just wait a couple of seconds just to let some of the oil drain. And from there, I'm going to add it onto a cooling rack with a pan underneath it. Now I'm going to let this cool for about 5 minutes. Alright, now before we coat our chicken, I've added my bourbon sauce into this large bowl. Next, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of the bourbon whiskey right on in there. That's going to give it a nice little kick. So now I'm going to just go ahead and give that a quick stir. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken pieces right on in there. And I'm going to just toss the chicken pieces in the bourbon. Alright, and there we go. Now you can let this chicken soak in the glaze for a couple of minutes before serving. Now here's the cross section of the chicken wing. And as you can see, it is done. And there you have it. Homemade bourbon chicken wings made by a New Orleans native. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell button if you want to be notified of my videos. I have an official website for all of my recipes, including for these delicious homemade bourbon chicken wings. You can go to www.charliethecookandrews.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter under the name Charlie the Cook Andrews. Stay tuned as Charlie's Taste Test is coming up next. Can't wait. Now it's time to go ahead and take a bite. Yo, this is about to get messy. Look at that. Ooh, ooh. Oh my goodness. Y'all, when I tell y'all this is so good, I don't know how to explain it. It's slightly sweet, well seasoned, with a nice little kick to it. Man, the flavor of the bourbon and all the seasonings that we added, I mean, everything is just the perfect amount. I mean, it just tastes absolutely wonderful. I mean, oh my goodness. I hope I don't get drunk eating this. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a good one. Peace.